Welcome to our implementation weekend in the Gut Club. This is number 2, our second day of our Sustainable January. So in our garden, when we have our womboks, is what we fondly call the Asian cabbage, what do? We make kimchi. Kimchi, of course, comes from Korea, hails from Korea. I was very blessed to have a Korean exchange student, Kim, stay with me for a period of time, and we got to meet his family when he graduated. And his mum, I taught her the way that we did yesterday with my grandma's sauerkraut, and she taught me many kimchi ways. And you know, there's so many ways. I've actually got an article on my online home at lynniestein.com, 200 ways to kimchi. I love the traditional way. When they come out of the garden, you pick those beautiful cabbages, you pick them early in the morning. You're working with nature. When you grow them, you're working with the moon with the growing of them, and then you pick them at the right time. You rise really early and you get them just before the sun rises. And they're just full of nutrition to start with, because those mighty microbes, they all start in the soil. And that's all the story of fermentation and sustainability, because we're talking about Sustainable January. Of course, we're in the tropics, and it's way out of season for our nice soft Asian cabbage, the wombok, as we call it here in Australia. It's known as many names around the world, but you know the one, it's that nice soft one. Now, let's get into it. We're going to make a very quick version today. It's more like what they call a watery radish. And the radish, of course, is the daikon. The daikon is the white Japanese radish, and that's the little daikon there. So we'll be using that as well, because the idea is how we ferment is what we grow. So when it's growing in season, we ferment it so it's ready there for us when it's not in season, and you've got enough to tide you for one season to the next. So with this one, we're going to do, as I said, the really quick version. So what I've done is I've cut the wombok, and I cut it last night before I went to bed, and I've sliced it up, and I've sliced it with the white radish. So that's what's in there. Into there, you add 2 tablespoons, so there's 1 full wombok, just 1 tablespoon of salt. I've used my Himalayan pink fine salt with the seaweed in there. So 1 tablespoon of that, and 1 tablespoon of an unrefined sugar. So I used Rapadura. And that's just put in there overnight. There's no water. Now you'll know that a lot of quick versions that you've seen me share with the kimchi, and Kiam's mother's quick kimchi, which is in the kimchi download, we actually put the water and we throw the water away, the salted water. So this is a totally different version. So there's no water actually added. It's just brought out, that salt has drawn out the moisture, and it will draw it out because it's it draws it out with anything, but this is a very soft leaf cabbage as opposed to what we used yesterday with the harder leaf, the drumhead cabbage. So you can see there it's gone quite limp, and it's drawn moisture. So that's just sat overnight. You could sit it for at least 12 hours is good. You could do less, but I like to do at least 12. So overnight, this hasn't had 12. I went to bed very late. But anyway, there we go. We've got it. So let's start. Now, it's a very simple mix. To that, we'll add some turmeric and ginger. So if you had that going in your garden, they'd just pop in there. A nashi pear. The nashi pear is the Asian pear, but if you don't have a nashi, you could just use an apple or a pear, or you could use half an apple and half a pear. So there's your fruit. I'm going to put some leek. So if you had some garden leek, in goes your leek. It's got the whole leek, the green and the white. I'm going to put some shallots. Now, there's no need to really combine them. If you don't have leeks and shallots, you can just do just do the one, but I've got both. So in goes the shallots, and again with the green. I've got some sorry for the noise, some garlic tops. Those ones have come from my garden. I had a few garlics that were left in there, so it's just the tops. Once again, if you don't have those, you don't need to put them in there. Now that's the mix, that's it, that's all you need. Now you could sprinkle through some chilli. It's normally spicy, but however much spice that you want, you could leave it just as is. I love to use my paste, my chili paste that I make myself. Traditionally, kimchi's made with a rice paste, and when you do the traditional kimchi, where you leave the leaf by leaf, and you spread this paste. You spread that paste, which is like a rice chili paste. You spread that leaf by leaf, and then you put everything in the middle. It normally has a bit of carrot. It normally has your carrot, and it has your onion and garlic and ginger and turmeric, and your white radish, and they're all done in matchsticks. And then you roll it all up and put it into a big crock, and that's just beautiful too. But this is like watery radish, so we're putting that paste in there. Now, a good idea is to wear gloves when you're working with anything with chili. There we go. So if you're working along with me, I actually, in your ingredient list, I gave you a bought chili paste that you can go and buy, and you can do that. Just be aware of what they put into those chili pastes, especially if you're trying to be totally gluten-free, because a lot of times they sneak wheat in there. But traditionally, it's made with a rice paste. That's made with my fermented rice and my fermented chili, so it's a beautiful paste. And I use that paste for many things. When my bitter melon is ready in the garden, I actually slice up my bitter melon and ferment that just in the chili paste with a few little leeks and some ginger and turmeric, and that's a wonderful little ferment. So there it is. Oh, it's smelling just superb. So now we just pop that into the jar. And it's the same deal as yesterday, that we keep it nice and tight. So we get our little, no air pockets. That's the idea, no air pockets. I'll try not to be noisy, that lid. Now this is a much quicker ferment than your other cabbage that we did like with our sauerkraut, because it's a softer leaf, so it'll ferment. I always say, when you're fermenting, think like the vegetable. Think like what it is, really look at the vegetable and know what sort of brine you're going to use and how long it's going to take, and it'll talk to you to the length of time. I've got enough there for 2 jars. Now this will be ready in like 2 to 3 days. But when I say ready, that's when it's ready to start tasting and put in the refrigerator. Kiam's mum said that her mum would always call after that time crazy kimchi time. We don't want to be eating kimchi when it's crazy. So 2 weeks in the refrigerator is ideal before you start serving it. And then all that crazy kimchi time will have stopped. But if you're wanting it for a special occasion, you can start eating it after your 2 to 3 days. You just taste it. Now, see, that's drawing up its own moisture. Like everything, you want it submerged. Look at this, the smell of this is just superb. And one of my little things come up. When you're using these bottles, as they age, you need to always keep them tight. If you find that it is a bit loose, double seal them. Put 2, that's what I've done there. I've put 2 on. I've cut my little stars with a little cookie cutter. That's my little daikon radish. It looks really lovely when you serve it, and you've got those little stars. You can use little hearts. We're going into February, our month of love, so next month we'll be using heart cookie cutters for everything. Of course, you can just cut it as well. We're almost there, almost there. See, it's covered in its own brine. Once again, you can put one of the little glass weights on top. Keep it all submerged, but that's packed really tight. Got my tongue out. Isn't it funny? You put your tongue out when you work and it just helps it along. Let's put that over there. What you're going to need that. Put that into there. We're going to need the bowl. I didn't bring another bowl. It's okay. So there we have a very quick, watery radish kimchi. Now, as I said, 2 to 3 days, but what you want to do is when you taste it, the big hint is your cabbage will have gone very limp. The colours would have all gone through it. But the really big thing is you shouldn't have individual tastes. That's what tells you when your kimchi's ready. You shouldn't still be able to taste like the turmeric in there. You shouldn't be able to taste the radish. It should just all blend together. That's the trick. But there we have it. Isn't that just beautiful? The smell. So in your garden you would have had your daikon, your white radish. So we're going to do it like a brine vegetable. One thing is when you're fermenting is don't be too clean. Don't clean up after you do one and then go on to the next. Because see, we're going to use that extra brine there. We'll just use that for our next ferment, which is the daikon radish. So the daikon radish and the leek. So what you're picturing here is that we've harvested the cabbage, we've harvested the leek, and we've harvested the daikon. That's in the ideal world, we're in season. So then we would be going to ferment the rest of the daikon and the leek. So in there it goes. Now, what I did was last night when I cut up, because I cut up the daikon and the leek and the wombok and the daikon went in with the sugar and the salt and sat in a bowl. Now, this went in with a bowl just with salt. So that's drawn out enough moisture. It's actually sweated. It's sweated overnight, that salt has drawn out all the moisture. So that's a perfect way of making a brine. You're not actually going to put salt into water because the salt's already in there and it's all had an even distribution. And now I'm going to use that brine too, see? So the kimchi tape, that will just give it that most beautiful flavour. So around it goes. So what we're going to add to that is we are going to add some liquid. So the liquid, you could use a herb brew. Sometimes I like to use tulsi because I have a lot of tulsi growing and I make just like a nice tulsi tea and I'll have that going, so I'll pour that in. Sometimes I'll have like a ginger and lemongrass tea. That's one of my favourite teas. It's come from the garden. So I call that my perpetual tea. So I just get like a bit of ginger and some lemongrass and I put that into a saucepan on my stove and I drink that through the day. I like it warm, I like it cold, and it's really lovely, but it's also lovely as a liquid to use for your brine. Because ginger is one of those things that's just beautiful in ferments, just loves to ferment. You can do it with parsley. Sometimes I have my parsley tea. Parsley tea is very good if you're feeling that your body just needs it needs a bit of detoxifying, and it'll tell you, it'll tell you that my body needs to be alkalized. Your wee will normally tell you. Your wee might be, it gets a little bit dark, it's a little bit smelly, you say, my body's becoming acidic. And an acidic body is a problem. It needs to always be in the alkaline range. So parsley and a bit of cinnamon. I love a little bit of cinnamon in there. And just boil it up and drink it as a tea throughout the day. And once again, that's beautiful to put in there as a liquid. Another thing that is just perfect for your liquid, for your brines, is bok choy. You know, the little Asian cabbage, which like it's just the little greens, the little tiny one. You get green and you get white. I like the white version because it doesn't give a lot of dark colour. And you just put that through your juicer and you use that for your brine. Because it's come from that cabbage family, it ferments beautifully and gives you a beautiful end result. Today we're just using clean water. So we just cover that over. And that's your brine. And the salt's already in there. There's no need. If you're working on a brine, you normally work on, depending on what the vegetable is, with that you'd be working on about 1 tablespoon at the max to 1 litre. If that's, you know, if you like had 1 litre of water in there. But as I said, that is the best way to do it. And it's the easiest way, and it'll give you the best tasty result. And it's all had an even distribution. So that's a brine vegetable. So we will get a little jar, we'll put that into our jar. Same deal, compress it down. I should put that into the jar so I'm not very organised with my jars today, with my bowls. And you make sure that it's all covered in brine. That's the big secret. All covered in brine, all will be fine. And once again, you can put your little glass weight, or you can use the end of your daikon wedge. That makes the end bit that you cut off, that makes a wonderful, wonderful weight. And there you have. Now that will take anywhere up to 2 weeks to ferment, because it's a little bit harder. It's not that soft. You could check it at 5-day mark. I like to leave it at least 2 weeks. You know, you've got to make sure that it's fermented. It depends on your temperature that you've got it. And once again, you'll get little bubbles. You'll put your saucer underneath it. The same as what we did yesterday. You'll put your little saucer. So a little saucer like that will go underneath, because you will get a little bit of overflow. So that will just come, and with that overflow, you just toss that out, clean the saucer, and put it back. No burping. Once again, no burping. We want to produce lactic acid bacteria and many strains of it. That's what the microbes do. They go in there and they eat out the sugar, they eat out the starch. That's their food. And from eating it, they produce all those strains of bacteria. And those strains of bacteria is what helps our bodies. So we want to produce the most amount of strains, and we want those lactobarbars. That's what we want to produce, not acetic acid. So if we let air in, we'll create acetic acid. I think I've told you that enough now, so we understand that the bottles have to be quality bottles, have to be oxygen free, and we have to give it a little bit of space so that it can bubble up. No fear of it ever exploding. We've got a good bottle, we've got good glass, good seals. The carbon dioxide will naturally create bubbles, and we put it into a space that it doesn't have UV light, doesn't have sunlight, so that it produces heaps of the good vitamins. So we want to set that environment up. So that's it, and that's going to be very tasty. I've got lots of ideas of how to use it. I have been blessed with quite an amount of travel and to have met a lot of people, and this is where we borrow all these ideas from, because these people have been doing it for generations. I went to Lake Biwa in Japan for a triathlon, and on arrival at our host family, one of the triathletes had picked up a nasty cold, like a sinus type infection, lots of mucus, and the lady just automatically went to her ferment cupboard, and she came out with her garlic infused honey, which is not a fermentation, it's actually an infusion, but really lovely that you put your garlic cloves and you infuse it in honey, leave that out for 4 to 6 weeks, and you've got the beautiful honey that you can use, and the garlic as well. So she strained off some of that, and the daikon. She got out the daikon and she put that through her little tiny hand juicer. she just put the daikon, the fermented daikon, with the honey, and she just kept feeding it to this guy, and the mucus just cleared. And she said, oh, daikon is just the most amazing thing to clear up mucus. She said, that's what we use. She said, we actually do it fresh. We just slice up the daikon and put it in honey and just put that into a jar overnight. But when it's fermented, it just takes it to another level. So that's a little trick for you, especially if you've got your honey infused garlic, because the honey's got the garlic in it, which is a very antiviral, antibacterial on its own. So very good for treating more than just mucus. So that she said, yes, the white radish, that daikon, she said, that's just really good for any mucus problems. She said, you know, often we'll just do it as a fresh juice as well. So that's a little trick on your daikon. So when you're coming out of your garden and it's like ginger and turmeric harvesting time, what you would do with those, just because we're talking of brines now, the brine that you would put into, what you can put into those, which is very, very tasty, is lime juice. So where we were talking about, like where in this case we've used the leftover brine from the kimchi and just topped it up with some water, and we've just spoken of using the herbal brews, which are really good, or the juice, the little bok choy juice. But lime brine is actually good with a lot of things as well. And ginger and turmeric is especially great in a lime brine. And you would do it exactly the same way as what we've just done that, where you put your ginger and turmeric just into a little bit of water. Just let that sit into some water for about 10 to 20 minutes and get a back of a spoon and just lightly scrape off the skin. Because if you leave the skin there, it can get a little bit bitter. So just lightly take it off. We don't want to peel it because all the goodness is just under that skin. So you just lightly get the back of the spoon and take off the skin, and then put the salt and let it sweat. Again, if you can let it sweat overnight for your 12 hours, wonderful. Then when you get up and it's already salted, you don't need to add that in the brine, just top up it with lime juice. That easy. And again, it only takes about up to 2 weeks, and you've got this beautiful, the smell, it's just amazing. And that brine itself, that you can use it, like just put little bits of it into water and have it as a drink. It's just a pick-me-up. You imagine, everybody knows when you wake up in the morning, if you have a little bit of lemon juice in your water, it alkalizes your system. Imagine if you have a little bit of fermented brine in your little water. And you only need small amounts. And the brine you can put into everything. It's the same with all the brines. Like the kimchi brine. Kimchi brine is just amazing. This you can actually pickle your eggs in it, your boiled eggs. You can just put that into some kimchi brine and you put it back in peeled boiled eggs, put it back in the refrigerator, don't leave it out. And 3 to 5 days, 3 days normally, you'll have beautiful, the eggs are just beautiful. You can do that with any brines, like beetroot brine, like sauerkraut brine, cucumber brine. Anything you can do, you can pickle your eggs with. You can do a really quick pickle. You can put veggies into your brine and leave them out. If you're going to be having fish or something at night, you can just pop in some little cauliflower or anything that you want to pickle, and just put some little ginger and turmeric and just put it into your kimchi brine. This is, as I said, they're all beautiful put in as beverages. You can put them into like a nice sparkling water, just a little dash of that, and it'll give you a beautiful pickup. And it's just a lovely, refreshing drink as well. This one makes a perfect Bloody Mary. You can put it in with tomato juice, and if you want to make the bacteria inert, you can add a little bit of alcohol if it's a special celebration. So there's just so much that you can do with these foods. The idea of Sustainable January was, the idea that we get into our head is to use what we have, to go out and pick what we have, and then to ferment it in that succession that we bring in, like we would bring in all our daikon radish, and then we would do all the different things with it. So then you've got a variety, and you've got all different foods to use. And by using what you have, it's so inexpensive. And you can grow anything. I mean, anything will grow even if you start in a pot. But herbs are the most wonderful things that you can use, like as a salted herb. So many things that we have to share with you. It gives me so much pleasure to be here, to be able to share my love, my passion with you. All I can say is thank you from my heart to yours. I would love you to remember to be grateful for all these wonderful foods that are bestowed on us. I always love it when I'm out in my garden. I always have these little times where it gives me that moment where I can think back in time and think of all the ancestors, all the generations before me that have done the exact same thing. And it's just the most wonderful feeling to get your hands in the soil. My son is now like 17 and a half, and he's grown up, and he still always is out there. You'll see him, he's transplanting things, and it's just in his bones, it's in his blood, and I'm just so grateful for that. I am, as I said, grateful that I can share with you my love and my passion, and I would love for you to let me know what you want me to share with you, because I'll share all day long. I'd like you to be grateful for your breath. When you wake up in the morning, the big thing we're grateful for is to close our eyes and just take a big breath and slow down and think of what we have to be grateful. And what I really would love is for you just to give yourself a big hug and thank you. Thank yourself. Thank yourself for wherever you are on your journey. And we are here to help you write that new chapter and go along in your journey. My biggest love and bacteria. Remember that we do have an affiliate program, and that if you like this and you know people that would like to come on board to join our club, to join any of my programs that I have, you get 50%. So join up my affiliate program, because we love to share the abundance as well, and we share the abundance with you. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend.